This seminar is jointly hosted by the Guyana Fire Service in collaboration with the Fire Advisory Board and the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and forms a major part of the Public Relations and Education Subcommittee program of the Fire Advisory Board, and closely follows the widespread activities conducted by the GFS for Fire Prevention Week. The seminar aims to sensitize the business community and raise awareness of the importance of fire prevention and general safety issues, and is usually held every year. Here are some highlights of the seminar.
The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry is committed to going beyond this seminar, and with the help of the Fire Advisory Board and the Guyana Fire Service, and soon to be Fire Service and Fire and Rescue Service, get involved in all initiatives aimed at reducing the incidences to promote proper fire safety and fire prevention methods and techniques. Our private sector companies have a major role to play in this whole process of preventing fires. First off, we have to ensure that our companies are complying with the necessary building, electrical, and fire ordinances. I'm being told earlier this morning that the relevant fire ordinances have not been passed. I think the way it's done currently, and I'm open for correction from the fire chief, it's being done more on a subjective basis as opposed to something that's enshrined and concrete in law. This is not always the case in terms of our businesses, and some of our businesses are very guilty of egregious breaches to the fire inspections and the fire recommendations from the Guyana Fire Service. I want to urge our businesses to comply with the inspection recommendations from the Guyana Fire Service, or if you're not satisfied with the rulings of the Guyana Fire Service, there's always recourse to the Guyana Fire Advisory Board. You can file an appeal to the Guyana Fire Advisory Board, and the Fire Advisory Board would listen to your complaints and would either reinforce what the Guyana Fire Service has pronounced on, or they can revoke and also make their own recommendation to you. Moreover, our companies have a personal responsibility to ensure that they have or they implement their own internal procedures and fire risk management systems. It can be done as a separate unit, or it could be incorporated into your security strategies and security plans. For larger companies, I think it should be mandatory, and they should have regular inspections and implement their own internal fire drill protocols and evacuation protocols. Management of those companies, and all companies I would say, should ensure and demand regular inspections reports to ensure that their companies are complying with the law. I'll turn my attention to the Guyana Fire Service. The capacity of the Guyana Fire Service has to be enhanced. Many times the processing of inspections can be very time consuming. I know I want my own company to be inspected, so I'm putting out a call here to the Guyana Fire Service to please shop the German's restaurant tomorrow and have my premises inspected so you can offer recommendations. I haven't seen anyone in many years. So I'll put this to the test to see how long the processing system and time would take. The Guyana Fire Service needs more resources to execute their own internal public relations exercises on fire prevention and fire safety. The officers of the Guyana Fire Service, they need more exposure to international training programs on new and innovative approaches to fire prevention and fighting. Our fire stations across the country need upgrading, and in many developing and new communities, you spoke about the housing sector, but then there's also the explosion in the mining industry. We need to see some new stations being erected in those communities and those areas. We also need to give the Guyana Fire Service the tools to effectively and efficiently execute its mandate. Our policymakers have a substantial role to play in all of this. They must ensure that the proper legislation are in place to enhance the fines, the penalties, and even now the building codes, which is more important than the enforcement aspect. The government should consider, and this is a call, I see we have the minister here this morning, the government should consider the outsourcing of inspections to private sector companies. The Guyana Fire Service does not have to do it all or go alone. I spoke about the emergence of the interior, the new communities, the interior miners, and all these communities springing up in remote areas. It makes good sense to develop a licensing type mechanism that would allow for authorized fire safety and prevention engineers, private engineers or companies who can perform fire inspections on premises, do investigations, conduct fire protection and life safety surveys, develop and review fire safety and fire evacuation plans, among other things. These private contractors' testimony also should be accepted by law, and they can serve as expert witnesses in court cases if called upon. Finally, I want to touch on, but in no great detail this morning, is the issue surrounding, and I heard Raj Singh mention it just briefly, the fire hydrant situation and also the underground water distribution system. Fire hydrants don't work in isolation or on their own. There's an infrastructure, water infrastructure that has to be in place. So we have to accelerate the necessary reforms to upgrade what we currently have so that our firefighters are in a more capable position to respond to any emergency. I want to close by wishing you all a very successful seminar here this morning, and that you go back to your organizations and start the discussions on how to improve or implement your own fire safety and prevention plans. With that, I say good morning and thank you.
Secretary to the Fire Advisory Board, Mr. Gordon Smith, representative hand in hand. I also want to acknowledge a colleague all the way from the UK, Assistant Divisional Officer Kevin Adcock of the Fire and Rescue Services of the Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue Service, and also Training Manager of the Severn Fire Training College out in the UK. I'm elated this morning, and I feel pleased from the remarks from the speakers before me. And those remarks are, what I'm more elated about is the two specific remarks. One, on the work of the fire service, and secondly, the understanding that there needs to be greater collaboration, and all and sundry within the space of Guyana needs to perform and to do what they have to do on the topic of fire safety. Fire safety and fire prevention is not just an issue for a professional fire service. It needs the collaboration of all of us, because you have a duty, just as we have a duty to respond to emergencies. The duty should also be on the owners, occupiers, and users of various types of premises to ensure that they have the necessary safety requirements within these premises so as to be able to dispense of their service that they offer to the public in a safe and conducive manner. Just before we started here, Kevin took my program and I asked him why. He said, well, we don't have something like this going on in my fire service. All we do, we go around and we enforce what the code is. And I felt good, you know why? I felt that here it is, we are in this part of the world reaching out to our stakeholders. We understand that we need to reach out to our stakeholders, and that's what we're doing. The whole issue of fire prevention is a topic that has been around maybe from since they discovered fires, because it has twofold. Fires have to serve us, and fires can also consume us. How we control it is another matter, and that's what we're here for. But from elementary training, fire prevention basically sits on three pillars. One is education, the second is enforcement, and the third is engineering. As long as you have those three, you have what is known as the whole sum total of fire prevention. Mind you, education is the first or the most strongest pillar, because education deals with setting the right concepts and the right thought process and having the right knowledge as to how you go about this whole process of fire prevention, because it's wide and it encapsulates a lot of various areas. The fire service has a role within the laws of Guyana under the Fire Prevention Act 2201, the laws of Guyana. And that role is primarily to spearhead activities that will generate a more fire-safe environment and prevent fires in the forest space. Because fires that are not set, or the fires that never started, are the best fires. And we believe that prevention goes a long way in reducing us having to go out there and to battle it. And secondly, protects the property and lives. Moreover, when we look at our statistics over the last 4 to 5 years, there is an increase in fires primarily in the dwelling environment. And that's been the case for the last 4 to 5 years. We're seeing that increase. Even though destructive fires have gone down about 18% over the last 2 to 3 years, we still have the majority of fires wherever we turn out to, starting in the homes. And most of the time, it's because of simple issues. Misuse of electricity, or even stealing of electricity. Increase in the use of electrical appliances without taking into consideration that you have to increase your capabilities to handle the amount of appliances. And more importantly, the issue of children fire starters. So, within the Guyana Fire Service, we intend to raise this issue very vocally and look at ways and means, both from our perspective as well as what needs to be done to address or reduce these incidents, because it's getting a little, it's getting a little more now, and in the sense when we are expanding also. Mr. Ratsing, Mr. Orling spoke about the building boom, more schemes going into place. Definitely there will be more homesteads, and we have to take a stand now to ensure that these kind of measures are in place to protect those who dwell in these homesteads. The fire service stands ready and is committed to continue these processes, continue to educate the public, continue to pass whatever is necessary on to the various sectors of Guyana. We do this training also for the tourism and hospitality sector. We do it for the industrial occupancies, the gas station owners, the persons do manufacturing and so on. And we'll continue to do so. But we have to have the right partnerships, and the persons who have their own responsibility also have to understand that this thing goes hand in glove, and we need your support also. You have to do your part. As I said before, it's better the fire don't start than it starts at all. And that's where you come in. Prevention. We have to continue to preach prevention. That's one of the biggest ways of reducing fire loss in Guyana. And we, the fire service, will continue to stand ready as we have been doing in the past, and we continue to do so. We also are cognizant of the support that we're getting from the government, because every year we're able to roll out more equipment, we're able to expand our services. But that also will have to have within the structure also, the recipients of these services have to understand too that there's a fire service for emergencies, but you have to do what you have to do not to have emergencies occurring or reduce the emergencies. So as we develop and as we modernize, we have Mr. Adcock here to do some more modern training in rescue and so on. We will stand prepared to do our duty, but we need to have the civic responsibility component. From more emphasis needs to be placed on fire safety. Persons need to adhere to our inspection regimes and reports. Persons need to implement our recommendations, because the bottom line that you have to do more to protect your properties. So, in closing, let me say again, I'm heartened to see the faces, I'm heartened to see the numbers turning out. This will surely not be the only one for this year. There will be many more in many other areas of the country. I like what I heard from Mr. Orlin. I heard you clearly, sir, that the Chamber of Commerce stands ready for the support. We look forward to the support, and certainly we'll be contacting you in a short time to have these programs being rolled out. Fire Advisory Board Chairman, sir, thank you. Since the Fire Advisory Board has been set up, I think they've been doing a tremendous job. They've been doing a good job. They've been pointing the fire service in the direction that we need to go. We are a professional fire service, but we also have the benefit of the Fire Advisory Board, who are the eyes and ears of the stakeholders out there. And we understand clearly what you're saying, and we will continue to work and embrace your programs.
Whenever I'm invited to speak at activities of this type, I feel a sense of relief, in the sense that I'm usually more focused on the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Prison Service for obvious reasons. The issues that attract the attention of the Guyana Fire Service are not as controversial, contentious, while they may be challenging, but not as challenging as those that face the police force or the prison service on a daily basis. And so, having heard Mr. Erling and Mr. Raj Singh, as well as our own Chief Fire Officer speak,